All right, so we're back, and we were just really trying to address some of the positives, some insights that we see that education field is taking that we believe will, benefit us in the long run. Ironically, though, as we sit and we discuss these things, we're realizing that while there are some positive benefits to the inroads that are being offered, sometimes it's the implementation of those benefits that creates more problems. It's not necessarily that the ideas are bad ideas, it's how do we make the ideas actually work given the conditions we work within. Ms. Woodleaf, share with us what your information there.
Okay, I troll all the teacher joke sites. Mr. Jackson has 27 students. He has received 9 new students from the charter school. 3 students left for the charter school, and 2 students were expelled. 8 students have IEPs, and 3 students have 504 plans. However, 2 of the IEPs were modified, and 1 504 plan has expired. 19 students don't have supplies, and 6 students don't take their medicine today for the achievement assessment. How does this determine if Mr. Jackson is a skilled teacher? Write an equation and solve.
See, math skills, you gotta have those skills.
And so I'm understanding that's a daily occurrence. That's a general classroom.
That it's our fault if they don't come to school. It's our fault if they don't take their medicine. It's our fault if they don't.
It's our problem to solve.
Right. We're supposed to solve all of
these
this.
problems that we encounter, we are tasked with typically using some kind of report to report what we are doing to solve it, and not all of the problems are solvable by us. That doesn't mean it's hard for teachers to say that, because then some people would perceive us as not wanting to solve it. That's not the issue. We are by nature problem solvers. That's why we work here. But we see the logical limitations of what we can solve.
So the scope of your position has dramatically changed from being the educator to being the problem solver.
Right, because it's really frustrating to sit in these meetings and they look at you, it's like this student's failing, this student's failing, this student's failing, this student's failing. And they look at you and they say, why? What are you doing? Why is this
that did not used to happen.
And literally, I have done everything I can do. There's nothing, aside from moving in with the child, there's nothing
or
left
having
I can
to move
do.
in with you.
And
this is very different.
Teacher.
When I was a new
Very
teacher, I had
teachers.
students that if they did not pass in my class, they did not graduate with their peers. It was a big deal as a senior. And I was never, ever questioned as to why that student failed. I was never blamed. I was actually blamed by a parent one time. I had notified the parent well in advance of what the student needed to make on the exam in order to pass and graduate. The parent was still upset. The parent came to school, came down the hall, was in my room yelling at me, and it only took a minute for an administrator to come to my defense and calm the parent to say, this is not her problem. You were notified, it's your son's problem. And that's the only time I was ever questioned. Otherwise, it was
It was
their
their
student.
responsibility.
And they couldn't go to evening school and they couldn't take it online. They had to wait until summer school or the next school year. That was their only option. And even with those limited options, I was never made to feel that I was to blame, ever. I never felt to blame. And now I'm sure that's different.
I think the worst part now is these kids are being passed without really passing the grade. You say, oh, well, just move them on. And then you can't.
But that
move
was
on
always
without
happening,
skill.
but now because of blame being placed, that always happened, especially with kids who couldn't perform. But now there's fingers pointed.
Well, it's frustrating. We keep them back or we push them on, but we never address the issue that
that's
you can't do.
keeping
You
them-
can't multiply. We just put you in the next grade, and you still can't multiply. So now it makes it harder for that teacher. So that's why we have kids in the 8th grade who can't multiply.
And then we point
because
the finger at
never-
that teacher.
We never addressed it at the time. We say, yes, no child's left behind, but we're just passing them on and leaving them behind. We're not, if we're truly going to personalize, we have to teach every child to where they are. We have to make it more like Montessori. I say that all the time, but you have to master this skill before you can move on, and we have to get out of this mindset of you've got to be in your grade. Well, you might be really smart, if we really want to personalize, you might be an ace at language, and maybe at math you're not good. So maybe you can read with 10th graders, but you need to do 6th grade math. And there's no shame in that because we all learn at different speeds, but as long as we attach a shame to it, every kid should just be doing do what you do.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because I know now the grading systems are changing. We're moving away from the A's and the B's and the C's and the D's and the F's to a 1, 2, 3, 4 content-based knowledge. Are they grasping the content as opposed to what the actual grade is? What are your thoughts? Is that a move in a right direction? Is that more along the lines of where we should be going, or do you?
I think we've moved. I mean, I think you should have to be competent in what you're doing, but just in hearing like my husband and other people in business talk, they hate all this stuff because they're getting students who are unprepared. They don't know. Well, they don't have soft skills anymore because we don't have time to teach those. We don't have time to teach you how to act, which we used to have time to slow down to do those kinds of things. But
does that not speak to content standard based? I mean, the fact is that the kids are graduating without general content knowledge, without being able to have practical application of what they've learned. Isn't it better to move to this 1, 2, 3, 4 type of system where we're measuring truly what they do know as opposed to an ambiguous A, B, C, or
Are we
D?
truly going to do that? That's the frustration.
Or are we going to say that's what we're doing?
Right.
And also,
We'll use it 1 year, not the next year.
Right.
a block that we have.
Hold that
is-
thought. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
We're going to come right back.